everybody. Welcome to the JP and Trav show on the Indie Sooner YouTube channel. It's your boy, JP, better known as Indie Sooner. And to my right, I got my homie, Trav. Trav, how you feeling today, buddy?
Man, feeling pretty good. This whole Tulsa shooting thing's got me, kind
Mm,
of bummed, but you know,
yeah.
uh, it's unfortunately it's the way things been going lately, as unfortunate as it is. So I got me some chicken wings here. I'm gonna eat on those. For those of you who later in the chat are gonna be asking what I'm eating, it's some garlic parm and some gochujang wings, traditional bone in, with
Ooh,
some blue cheese because I'm an adult and my taste buds are fully matured at this point.
man. I do want to, like you said, Trav, just, I mentioned it last week with what happened in Uvalde. Now we hear the thing in Tulsa, and that's obviously close to home for you. So just definitely prayers go out to anybody who was affected, anybody in the 918 area. These things are getting. I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous at this point. It just seems like we're hearing it more and more. Can seem that way, can be overwhelming, but just definitely praying for everybody in the Tulsa area. Glad that you were safe, and I know that your friend lost somebody they knew, which is not you know not ideal, but for sure. So
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's unfortunate. There's no doubt about it. I know the doctor had multiple kids just graduated college, kind of getting their life started, and just a bummer, no doubt about it. But it's been enough. Obviously these things require a certain amount of reverence and respect and things like that. But I know there's plenty of that going around. So we'll get it going. I appreciate you pointing that out and bringing that up. It's definitely meaningful to me. But we'll 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 give the people what they want. We'll dance. So time to
absolutely,
talk a little bit OU.
absolutely. As always, we're here talking to you now. You'll see something probably a little bit different than you're used to seeing if you've been on the JP and Trav show since we began. As you guys know, we use StreamYard as our platform, but we've upgraded a little bit. As you can see in the top right corner, we got the JP and Trav logo that is branded, obviously copyrighted. Don't touch it. And soon in August, we will have our sponsors logo up there as well. So we're definitely excited for that. And again, we'll continue to kind of speak more as that comes out. But yeah,
Hey, and
we're moving on
shout
up
out
in the.
Tattoo Bake, shout out Tattoo Baker for the graphic.
Oh yeah,
For those of you that are the real OGs of the show, you remember that shirt originally was the Speed D shirt, but with Alex Grinch moving on, much to the pleasure of one Perry on Winfrey. Um, Mr. Tattoo Baker hooked me up with a brand new OU shirt that I'm not sure even exists, but it exists on the logo. So
it's on the logo.
yeah, he hooked it up. So shout out Tattoo Baker. He came through clutch on that one.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we'll jump right into it. We got a couple different segments we're going to kind of hit on today and topics. One of them I actually put a blurb out on Twitter, and we'll talk about that kind of towards the end. Kind of fun. But first, OU spring sports are trending up in general here. I got a tweet from the man himself, Joe Castiglione, that he sent out just, I believe, yesterday or a couple days ago, excuse me, where he talks about, OU women's tennis. Obviously, they're the runner-up national championship. Oklahoma softball is the undisputed number one team in the nation. They've made their way to yet another women's college World Series in Oklahoma City. Men's and women's track have 20 athletes advance to the NCAA national championship, which is amazing. Many of whom my sister knows pretty well since she's on the track team. And then obviously OU men's golf was involved in the national championship. Unfortunately, they didn't get it done, but they had a great season. We're a top three team the entire year, if I'm not mistaken, if not the number one team. So, obviously would have liked to see them finish it off, but regardless, just something that was fun to follow. I don't know Trav followed them very much so. And then obviously baseball is Big 12 champs, tournament champs, Big 12 tournament champs. Hey, got to make sure we differentiate
Tournament champs.
tournament champs.
We don't
But
want to mess up our trash talk with OSU.
oh yeah, and should have probably hosted a regional, right? Trav and I talked about
Yeah, and that's really the Big 12's fault. I mean,
yeah.
there's a reason we're getting out of this conference, and we can blame the NCAA all we want, saying, you know what, you shouldn't release the regional sites while conference championships are still going on. But the Big 12 scheduled their championship game later than every other conference. It is set in stone when they release those regional locations, regional sites. So for the Big 12 to schedule it late, knowing that that was going to happen in the middle of the game, it's just more evidence of why we're leaving this godforsaken conference. It's so horribly run.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and you know nobody to blame but themselves for having a championship game literally after selection Sunday is happening. It doesn't make any sense. So
The team that won the team that was the tournament champions and the team that won the actual regular season title in the Big 12, neither of them got
oh,
regionals.
makes no sense. But Oklahoma State and Texas did. How?
Well, that's what's funny. Texas fans are like, we didn't want to win. We already got the regional. Well, I'm sorry. What trophy do you get for hosting a regional?
Right?
We got a trophy for winning the tournament.
We did.
We got one. But yeah, that is true. The marks is neutral, RPI, all that. Like, I get that. But we got a trophy for winning that. Texas does not get a trophy for hosting a regional. And all we got to go is go out and take care of business. We're in the Gainesville regional, and I think we'll be fine. We're one of the hottest teams in the country, and with one of those, it's people say, "Oh, it's tough regional." I get the idea of you want certain teams in regional. I get it, but at the same time, if you want to win a national championship, then you got to beat the best teams anyways.
Yep.
You got to beat the good teams. So I get that there are good draws, bad draws. I get it, but Oklahoma got a fine draw. They're playing well right now. If they can continue to play as well as they played near the end of the year, there's no reason we shouldn't end up in Omaha.
I agree. I
That
agree.
that
100%.
Arkansas going to OSU, that's going to be a great regional. We'll see if their catcher, the stupid ass, the disgraceful, the embarrassment rental player catcher can play very well for Arkansas. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And as a matter of fact, you bringing that up, that's another thing we were going to talk about. So if you guys didn't hear, and I still haven't gotten a chance to, I know Travis and I have talked about it, but there's a local Arkansas radio show host that actually was with the ESPN affiliate. They kind of went off on an Arkansas baseball player, the catcher, if I'm not mistaken, right, Trav? And he said some crazy things. Trav, you want to enlighten the crew here?
Yeah, so there we go. Sorry, I'm new to a headset, and I'm eating wings, so it's tough. But yeah, the catcher hadn't played particularly well, but he is a semifinalist for the Buster Posey Award, which goes to the nation's best catcher. So he's a graduate transfer from Kent State. He's a good player, really good player. Arkansas has a very proud baseball tradition.
Mhm.
Um, uh, Heck, my sister has been to Omaha. I don't know how many times to support Arkansas. They put a lot of people in the league. Done a really good job. Well, the thing is, and this ESPN radio guy was actually, I believe, the play-by-play guy for them, or is the play-by-play guy for them, and he brought up. So there was a quote, or there was a question at the press conference, and it said the reporter said, "Hey, you know, you guys haven't really seen a stretch like this for a while. You guys really aren't playing well. What can you guys do, or what do you guys think is causing this for the most part? And the catcher responded with, keep in mind, the catcher, in order to be up there answering questions in the first place, is going to be one of your better players, one of your team leaders. They don't put the bums up there to answer all the questions, right? So, anyways, he comes up and says, you know what, we're trying to keep the circle tight. We're trying to focus on, moving ahead. We're trying to focus on winning all this. There are some fans that are great. There are some fans that are not so great. So we try and stay off of Twitter and all the negativity, whatnot that comes with it. Because I forget which golfer said it. I think it was Justin Thomas
Mm.
said positive affirmation changed his game. There are so many golfers specifically that say, "Oh, you suck. You suck. Blah blah. Man, it's I suck at this. Man, it's a terrible shot. Blah blah." Well, his caddy Bones told him, "Get that out of your vocabulary. Start giving some positive affirmation." So that kind of mental stuff carries across all sports. So with that, he was really trying to just say, you know what, we're trying to move ahead. We're trying to keep the noise out. Everything like this. And this radio host went off on him. I mean, he was shouting. He was shouting. He was calling him a disgrace. He said he was a loser. He said, "You know why the team's losing? Because you're a loser." He said, "You're the catcher. You're supposed to handle all of the infield. The team is losing because of you. I can't wait for you to get far away from this program. I can't wait this, that, and the other." I mean, he called him a stupid ass. He called him all this, and he's going in on him about this. And
Wow.
it's like, dude, you're proving the player's point by talking all this trash, like and talking like an ass. Like, you're proving this player point that there's so many toxic fans. And it's interesting because with OU, our fan base is so big and so active on social media that
Mhm.
obviously we have our own that, you know, like to talk a little noise when maybe they shouldn't, directed at players, directed at coaches, things like that. But this was a radio host on ESPN radio that has been doing radio for the Hogs since like 2006. I mean, this guy has been a long time. This guy's got a gray beard. So, um, it's it was interesting to hear that from him. And it brings up the question, like, what responsibility does the media have to be a fan or to actually report on the team, right? So I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I talked to a couple guys with KREF about it and whatnot. It's like, I can't imagine. Can you imagine Toby Rowland just rolling up his sleeves and saying, "Oh, you know what? Um, this guy's a loser. Spencer Rattler or Caleb Williams or whoever is a disgrace. I can't wait till he gets out of here." Can you imagine him saying it about a transfer? Can you imagine him saying that about Baker Mayfield after, if he has a bad game? You're a transfer. You're not even a real Sooner. Kyler Murray, you're not even a real Sooner. Jalen Hurts, you're not even a real Sooner.
Dog.
What? Like, dog, get out of here. Like, you can't be the gatekeeper to a fan base. If you wear that jersey, you are a Sooner. Simple as that. If you wear that jersey and you suit up and you go out and you put your health on the line, you put your blood, sweat, and tears into the program, then you're more of a Sooner than 99% of the people that try and say you're not.
Yeah.
So, uh, and it's something to keep in mind, man. With all these, with the transfer portal as it is, we're going to have these rental players, graduate transfers and whatnot. And it's important that we make sure that people know that, hey, transfers, you're still part of the team. Once you sign, on the dotted line and you're here, you're part of this team. Once you suit up and wear that and wear that crimson on you, you're part of the team. So, um, anyways, I thought it was just really interesting. I don't think we've seen um, anything like that on at least as close to us, because obviously we're
Mhm.
doing a lot of SEC talk. We're doing a lot of talk about what our rivals should be
Yeah.
in the SEC, whether the scheduling is going to go that way.
Yep.
And Arkansas, as of late, especially, what they went 9-4, or
Something like that.
yeah, 9-4 with their bowl game. I mean, great season as far as Arkansas is concerned, 9-4. I'm pretty sure coaches would get fired at 9-4 if they were at Oklahoma. But 9-4, they're over the moon. And they're thinking, man, we're up next in this conference. We got KJ Jefferson coming back. Now, I'd like to see. I think KJ Jefferson's a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I do wonder if he benefited from the Mike Evans scenario that Johnny Manziel benefited from while he was at A&M. Treylon Burks, incredible wide receiver, big body, big frame, could still beat you with speed. Won a lot of 50-50 balls, but we all saw with Arkansas, or we all saw with A&M, Johnny would roll back and just throw it up in the air, and Mike Evans would come down with it. And everybody thought, oh, man, Johnny Manziel's, man, he's the man. Well, years down the road, we're like, oh, yeah, Mike Evans is one of the best receivers in the league. That's why it worked out so many times. So it'll be interesting to see where Arkansas goes going forward. I realize this isn't an Arkansas show, but since we're talking about it, I don't know. It's interesting. Drew brings up a good question in the comments. Where is my line when it comes to you as a fan with what you know is truly going on, perspective versus opinion? It's interesting because with me, I have to be careful what I say because I know these people. I know a lot of them. I mean, I'm not in the locker room by any means, not right now at least, but I know a lot of these people. That's why you guys saw me taking up for Kane so heavily. And somebody brought up a month-old tweet the other day, yesterday, I think, about, hey, I think Perrion has better perspective than you do about Coach Kane, blah, blah, blah. He's clearly, he needs a friend because he's insecure about, BV kicking him to the curb. I'm like, first of all, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, it's as simple as just, these are people too, and they're doing their best. Perrion, I have it on incredible first-hand information. I guess second-hand information by the time it got to me. But Perrion's draft stock had nothing to do with the coaches. Nothing to do with the coaches. So all the people saying that, all the coaches cost Perrion a first-round draft pick. I mean, I know that it's very easy right now to latch onto Perrion and say, oh, we hate the former coaches. We hate the former coaches too. And Perrion's saying all the right things, saying screw the former coaches. So, Perrion's the people's champ. Well, the problem is the reason Perrion dropped in the draft is because that's what he was saying in his interviews. That's what he's telling other coaches. That's what he's telling NFL coaches. Was talking about how bad his coaches were at Oklahoma. Well, the worst thing you can do in a job interview, I'm not sure how many of you have been on the interviewing side, but if you interview somebody and all they talk about is trash about their bosses that they had at the previous job, you think to yourself, oh, well, what are they going to say about me? Maybe it wasn't their boss's problem. Maybe this person's the problem. And I know Jason says false. Grinch's scheme was a damn gimmick. Well, I'd like Jason to go back and look at the film and see when Perrion was taking plays off. Perrion took a lot of plays off. A lot of them. Perrion, his attitude, he's still got an axe to grind. This dude has been drafted. He is in the NFL. And he cannot stop talking about his defensive coordinator and calling him the Grinch that stole, whatever. Like that is NFL teams see that. NFL teams are investing millions and millions and billions and millions of dollars into these players. And yes, I do know how pre-draft meetings are conducted because coaches talk to me. So sorry, Eric 117. For those of you that don't know, I'm decently connected. So anyways,
you must be new.
I knew. So anyways, I know Perrion was at a dinner with multiple OU players and NFL coaches. And Perrion was the only one complaining about the previous coaches and not talking about the future and whatnot. And that's part of the issue is Perrion is one hell of a player. We all know that. Anybody who watched his highlights knows that he's a hell of a player. But everybody that also just is on social media knows that he's a bit of a hothead. and he holds a grudge. And it's clear that he's got a grudge against Alex Grinch. And I put up a tweet. I said, if if he if he feels half the hate towards the opposition as he holds towards Alex Grinch, the dude will be all pro first year.
Yep.
First year. Because if he imagines, I'm thinking Waterboy, right? You remember when Waterboy started imagining all the people that he hated in his life
Hmm.
as the opponent, and
Yeah.
then he would go and destroy them. If he's able to channel that and imagine every single opponent quarterback as Alex Grinch, the dude he'll have 15 sacks his first year. But that's the thing. And people drum up motivation however they want to. Jordan did it. I mean, famously, Jordan did it. Jordan would make up stuff. Jordan make up stuff and believe his own lies in order to get an edge.
Took it personally.
Baker did it. We see this. All Trey Young does it. People get different, different ways to motivate themselves, and maybe this is Perion's way of motivating himself.
Right.
But when you turn on the film, it wasn't just, oh, this guy, he was just in the wrong scheme, because he went to the Senior Bowl, dominated it, and everybody was saying, oh, first round maybe, dominated it. So you have to look at the timeline, right? So he's got OU, and we had him around late second round, early third round was I think what we were being told.
Hmm.
And then he goes to Senior Bowl, and it's like, oh, this guy might be late first round, early second, because he's really showing out. And then after that process is when all the pre-draft interviews happen, combine, that kind of stuff. And then he drops, to where he actually got drafted. And everybody was like, I don't understand why P's getting drafted. So it's weird to me that people, I mean, it's the same people that before Lincoln left didn't understand. Lincoln got the team, and the first year he went overtime against Georgia. Next year he lost by 11 to Alabama. Next year he got blown out by LSU. Next year he won the Big 12 but didn't make the playoff. And then the next year he didn't make the playoff or didn't make the Big 12. You notice how my hand is all the way off the screen by now, because it was that much of a drop. So people can see that and they can reason with, okay, something must have been going poorly down the road. So with that, it's okay. Perion was second, early third, late second round pick. Senior Bowl, people were talking about second round for sure, maybe first round. And then all the pre-draft interviews happened, and then he falls to where he fell. But yet people want to say, oh, well, like, this guy knows about the pre-draft process. You don't have to know about the pre-draft process to understand how that works. You just have to put two and two together at that point. So that's what's interesting is I hope he goes out and just murders it. I hope he's an all-pro. I hope he wins a Super Bowl, because the dude is entertaining. He's fierce. He's got the talent. He's truly an athletic freak. And if he can dial in those motivations in an appropriate way and channel those in an appropriate way, then he'll be fantastic. But to continue to blame everybody else for where you went in the draft when that same coaching staff got plenty of other defensive players drafted. I mean, I don't know why he was the only one that dropped big time, but everybody else on that defense went kind of where you thought they would go for the most part. So it couldn't have been the stat. He wasn't the only one being coached by that staff, I don't believe. So I don't know. Just something to think on. Something to think on.
No, for
I'm
sure.
gonna have another wing. now that I pissed off some people in the chat.
Yeah, they're like, what are you talking about, grill boy?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Burger boy, what's up?
Nah, I mean, yeah, and at the end of the day, like you said, you have to make it your own. Once you get to the NFL, like, obviously you want your coaches to put you there, or quote unquote put you there, but once you get there, it's on you. So, you know, we've seen plenty of players that went and fifth, sixth, seventh rounds become all pros. So ultimately, now Perrion, it's up to him. I know a lot of the OU fan base loves it. It riles them up because they didn't particularly like Grinch. But on this show, JP and Trav were seen as sunshine pumpers. And here's the thing: listen, are we going to sit here and say that like Alex Grinch was the best defensive coordinator in the nation? No, we're not going to say that. But I
No.
also think it's kind of crazy to even sit here with everything that happened and sit here and nitpick Grinch's defense like it was worse than Stoops, like worse than what we had before, which we all know that's not true. So I'm
No,
like,
not true at all.
I mean, you could say like, maybe, well, not maybe, Venable's defenses will be better than Grinch's, right? That's fine to say.
Yeah. If there's a bet out there, I don't care what odds I'm getting.
Yeah,
I can get a horrible. I am taking our defense will be better.
you're taking
I will bet whatever odds I get.
yes, but to say that Grinch was like the worst defensive coordinator there is, and he consistently can't put people. I mean, again, Kenneth Murray got drafted in the first round right when Grinch, first came in the first year, right after having Mike Stoops be there, and you don't know, K9 has a bunch of potential, but it's not being realized. Then Grinch comes in, Brian Odom, he's a first round pick next year. So again, I
Yeah,
think
and
that there's
and
ebbs and flows.
K9 gives K9 gives Odom a ton of credit. Here's
Yeah.
the thing: if you talk to these players, and they're the ones that'll tell you. I mean, there's a reason that Kane was at Nick's draft. Like he flew down there. Nick was like, "Man, I need you here," and Nick has spoken glowingly about Kane, and it's just it is what it is. What it is. Like these players know who they're being coached by. It's just there was one, and obviously Isaiah Coe hopped in on it and whatnot. But and I'm not and like I said, none of us are saying that that Alex Grinch is Nick Saban. Like none of us are
Yeah.
saying that.
Yeah.
None of us are saying that. I totally get that. But what's interesting, and this is I gotta be careful. Okay, so but there were games that we scored less than 20 points. I mean, Baylor, really low. Really low games, and the defense had to save us.
hmm
But we're not keeping that same energy with our offensive position coaches because we like them. And honestly, I'm of the belief that Lincoln obviously had a foot out the door, but also he has a bit of a Kellen Moore complex of Kellen Moore, Cliff, Lincoln. They're all kind of cut from the same scheme cloth.
Mm.
They try and scheme guys open instead of have a philosophy that they can pass everything through. So one of the reasons that Lincoln could pull up plays from his memory was that it's all to a specific script of
Yep.
a specific scheme. So with that, you can't take advantage of matchups as much because you're trying to scheme you're trying to scheme guys open instead of letting those guys go out and get it. Troy Aikman said this about Kellen Moore's offense. He said, if defenses played us like they play the Cowboys offense currently, then Michael Irvin would have had 10 catches by halftime. And that he was making the point to say they need to throw to CeeDee Lamb a lot more because he was constantly the better 1v1 player in the matchup.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't go to him because they were trying to scheme somebody open or it wasn't in that script or anything like that. So, and that's why I think Lincoln got figured out. I mean, we saw Dave Aranda figured him out too easy. I mean, Kansas State had his number. I mean, Jim Knowles read him like a book. Like at a certain point, like people call you a guru enough, and you start to believe it.
Yep. I mean, I listen. My uncle Byron, who's an NFL scout for 20 years, been on the JP and Trav show. I've had him on Indy Sooner a couple of times, just talking. He said on here before, and even to me privately, he's talked to plenty of NFL scouts that have said, why is Lincoln lauded as a genius? I don't understand. right. And so again, is he a good offensive mind? Yes. Like nobody's saying that, but I think the conversation of like, and yeah, we pumped him up. We did as OU fans because he was ours, right? It's what we do. But like the looking at it now, like is Riley truly this offensive savant who makes all the right calls every time? It's like, man, you go and do some research, like that may not be everything that we thought it was.
Well,
Um,
and that's us. I mean, we're going to support our own, and
absolutely.
we read all the articles, right? We read, oh, all the NFL teams are coming to Norman to study him and
Yep.
all that kind of stuff. But that's the thing. It's a it's a scheme. It's a scheme, and it's different to have a style and a philosophy than it is a scheme.
Mm,
So Levy's got a philosophy. He lets his best guys win. In the second half, he runs the ball a lot. Everything passes through that philosophy. That's the way he. That's the way he knows offense. That's the way he plays offense. The way he calls offense. Whereas Lincoln is more scheme heavy, where everything has to go to his script. He's got plays for everything, and he can. I mean, obviously, we were successful offensively for him for years.
yeah, we were.
So I'm not going to say it didn't work because it definitely
Mm,
worked until more offenses got or more defenses got tapes, and minds like Aranda showed up in the Big 12, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, we can do this. Yeah, we can
yeah,
beat this." And
yeah,
then they did.
yep,
And Lincoln looked real average for the second half of the last year.
yeah, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Probably would look more. I mean, okay. The last thing I'll say on, and then we'll move on. Caleb Williams and his athleticism bailed Lincoln out a lot of times. At the same time, Caleb made some mistakes, right? I mean, sometimes he didn't hit who he was supposed to hit. But when Spencer was in there, right? I mean, Lincoln has to be held accountable for that. As does Spencer. Spencer has some accountability in that himself. But like Lincoln has to be held accountable for the way Spencer looked at the beginning of
Yeah,
Cleveland.
yeah, and I think a lot of that honestly was Benny Wiley pulling all of the offensive linemen down to do Tybo and kettlebells, and we just didn't. We couldn't block like we should have.
Mm,
So the fact that um, the fact that Spencer had to run that often, or that Caleb saved games by running that often, like I'm just I'm real glad that Schmidt's back. It's not going to be an instant overnight. Just now, the offensive line's going to look entirely different off the bat,
right.
but
Over time.
it will definitely look like a change. I mean, you heard, um, yeah, right. Um, they
Shameful.
had like they had these guys running distance, slimming them all down. It was odd. Offensive linemen aren't supposed to have flat bellies.
Yeah.
So with that, I think it was Chris Murray. I think it was Chris Murray that said that instead of doing left to right, the OU offensive line is now running north and south a lot more, which is music to our ears, right? So um, that should make a lot of people very happy. So
Yes, it should.
um,
All right, guys.
every OU offensive coordinator since Mike Leach, Kevin Wilson was after Mike Leach, right? And
Mm,
he was at Ohio State. Um, yeah, I mean most of them for
yeah.
sure.
Heupel. I mean, yeah. At Tennessee, doing well. I mean, Tennessee's supposed to be pretty good this year, but we'll see.
As long as Haslam keeps on buying players for him, he's going to do great.
Facts. That's a fact. All right, guys, we got two more segments to get through before we get to our Q&A portion really quick. This one is one that you're pretty used to. At this point, it seems like OU and 11 a.m. kickoffs are starting to become synonymous, but it brings up an interesting question for me. I know that the average fan at this point is just you see it at 11 a.m. You're like, why are we doing this? It's all the Big 12's fault, and I hear that. But I think the bigger conversation I want to have with you, Trav, is obviously for us it's annoying and unfortunate, but is it really more of a who we're with issue, right? Like Fox has most of the TV rights for for most of the Big 12 big games, and their big time slot is
Big
noon.
noon kickoff.
So, like,
Yep.
in a way, like OU is being put in prime time for them, and so like it's flattering for that reason, but we're upset because recruiting, obviously, we want to tailgate most of the day, and when we go into the SEC, by and large, those are middle afternoon to late games mostly, right?
Yeah, you get
3:30,
the 2:30. You get the
4:30.
2:30 slate. You get the 2:30 slate
Correct.
locally a lot in the SEC. Yeah, I mean it's. I am on an island here, and I totally get that. Y'all can hate me in the comments. Wouldn't be the first time. Won't be the last. But if it's an away game, bring the 11 a.m. It's fine. I like waking up, catching game day, and it going right into our game, and then you get to watch your game, and when you win, as OU almost always does, based on our record for the last forever years, then you get to watch all the other teams falter. You get to watch other top teams struggle. You can focus on that, knowing that you can talk mad shit on Twitter because your game's already in the bag.
Yeah.
And you can just enjoy. You can sit back, relax. You don't have to watch other teams struggle and then go, oh, but we got a game later. Like I hope we don't look like they look. It's stressful. So with that, I like 11 a.m. games if they're on the road. If they're at home, it really sucks for recruiting. You keep in mind a lot of these guys, we recruit nationally, right? So, and if you think of if we recruit on the West Coast, how that timeline kind of screws with it as well.
Mhm.
But I mean, these guys have to play Friday night games because obviously in high school you play on Friday nights. So Friday night, you do that, and then you get done. You get home at 11, 11:30, something like that, and finally get showered, get to bed, midnight, 12:30. You got to text your girl, thanks for the game, whatnot. You got to keep up those high school relationships. Those always
Yep.
last forever. So um, you do that, and then you got to be at the Switzer Center by 9 a.m. to start your visit. It's like, dang, that's a tall task. But if you can travel that morning, see a little bit of the campus, something like that, even an afternoon tip, you're good to go because you can then be like, okay, we'll have a little bit of time to travel. I don't have to wake up at 4 in the morning, get out to the airport, do all this, that, and the other. So what'll be interesting though is this year with the OVs, we're going to have one big fall OV weekend and one big summer OV weekend. Obviously, this weekend is the OV weekend, the Champion Barbecue. We have close to 30 OVs, which is absurd. That's absolutely unheard of
Mhm.
for OVs. Nobody has that many OVs in one weekend. So, um, big time recruiting weekend ahead. This will be a lot of so it basically, like I said, it breaks it down into two OVs, right? You have a fall OV and you have a summer OV. The summer OV is for people that are committing before the season. So much so you hear recruits talk about it all the time. I want to get my recruitment done before my senior season so I can shut down recruiting and focus on winning a state championship my senior year with my team.
Right.
So this Champion Barbecue weekend is full of guys that are announcing next month. Obviously, we've got Caden Green announcing July 8th, I believe. You've got a bunch of other high targets that are announcing before the season. That's what these are OVs are for. So, like the DJ Hicks of the world and a couple of those guys that are announcing, like a lot of the big time guys announce National Signing Day. Obviously, early National Signing Day. It's in February. In No, regular signing day is in February. So early National Signing Day is 2 weeks after. So it'll be early December. So like second week of
Mhm.
December. So, anyways, um, so you've got early national. That's when a lot of people announce the big time guys. You also have your All-American bowls, whether it be your Army All-American bowls, your Under Armour All-American bowls, everything like that. So that's a lot like when people announce. So those guys will all be coming to the fall OV weekend because Venables had back under Lincoln, you had OVs nearly every home game you had OVs, which was really hard because kids could just schedule them whatever they wanted, right? It's like, I'll go to an OV, I'll just go to OU whenever because I can go any home game. Well, Brent's trying to put a little more emphasis and value on the OV for OU is like, hey, I don't care if you have something scheduled with LSU or Alabama or whoever. Like, this is our OV weekend in the fall. If you want to do an OV with Oklahoma, that's when you have to be there. So that's where you kind of divide the approaches, right? It's these OVs are for your early commits, your summer commits, preseason commits, and then you'll see your fall OV have your Hickses and I think Richard Young's going to be announcing late. Not Richard Young. Yeah, Richard Young's going to be announcing late. A couple others are announcing late.
Right.
That we can still get in on. Obviously, linebacker from Denton that just moved. That's going to bug the shit out of me. Billy Bowman's former teammate. Anyways, you guys tell me in the chat. He'll be announcing later. So don't look at the OVs this weekend and be like, man, there's some big targets that are missing. It's fine. They're going to be here in the fall. So Colin Simmons, defensive end, number 1 player in the country, was in Norman today. Chopping it up with Todd Bates. He even he tweeted out a couple times, Anthony Hill. Yep, that's what I'm talking about. Thanks, guys. And Todd Bates and him were chatting it up. And Colin Simmons has actually been pretty active on Twitter with pro OU stuff. I know that doesn't matter in the long run, but I guess it's better than the alternative of him being in an OU camp and then the next day just chanting, tweeting out "Roll Tide" a bunch. That would be a bummer. But one of his buddies got an offer today, 2025 guy. So he had talked about. He's like, man, this was the one that was coming, man. I knew it. So he's talking to other guys about OU offers, and so we'll see where we're at with Colin Simmons. That defensive line recruiting. I mean, I saw somebody Sean mentioned Stone. I spoke with David a little bit earlier today. He's getting into town tomorrow to Norman. So he says he's going to miss out on some of the camp festivities, but David Stone will be arriving in Norman tomorrow. So that's good news. He's obviously very pro OU for those of you who haven't been paying attention, but David Stone is extremely pro OU, and he will be in town tomorrow. So Young, I personally believe that he is Alabama bound. He is now out on Ohio State, which is a shock because I don't know, Ohio State guy outlined to me his NIL deals and everything that was going on with Ohio State, and something went awry. And so he's not even given an OV to Ohio State, which is wild. That recruitment took a big turn. So, yeah, so exciting stuff coming up this weekend, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. I know a lot of people, the questions on their mind, I'll just get through it right now. They want to know if you cook the steaks this weekend.
Well, Mr. Toby Baldwin said that I can't. So I exist in this weird space where compliance doesn't really know what I do. So I think it's easier for them to say, no, you can't do anything. So we were going to do something really cool. But I think, I think my involvement with audience rent, NIL, and all that kind of stuff, and just them not really. I mean, I've never had a conversation with Toby Baldwin about it, not once. I've heard from other people that I can't do it. So I'd love a call. Hey, Toby, I know you listen to our radio shows, so if you're listening to the podcast, I'd love an email or a call back. I'd love to chat with you about it. I'm just here to help. Promise you, I'm just here to help. Not here to break any rules.
That's it. Just wants to cook steaks.
Just
You
trying to
know,
cook steaks.
that's it. All right. Hey,
Yeah,
our
right.
last segment and the one that I talked about on Twitter today, and a lot of you guys engage with it. And feel free to engage now in the chat as well. And I'll bring up some of the ones that some of you guys said. But rumor has it that the SEC is looking into three rivals that you'll play yearly, and then a rotating schedule for the other 6 games. Now, that's if they do 9 conference games. There was also the option of
Which
doing
they
eight
always should.
games.
They should always do 9 conference games. It just makes
I
sense,
agree.
man.
I
All these
agree.
people that are like, "Well, the SEC grind is just so much worse." Yeah, is that why you play Mercer in November? Is that why you play
Correct.
Kansas School of the Deaf in November?
Correct.
Get out
And
of
so
here.
that's where I hope they go with it. But the other option that they have is the traditional 8 game schedule where you have that three, non-conference kind of early on, but then you have the one, towards the end of the season, the FCS, Chattanooga, whoever, at the end there, and
Yeah.
then you would only play one rival, and I don't think anybody likes that one. Clearly, we all know if that was the case, ours would be Texas, but that's not the question. The question is if we go into the SEC and they're doing this three rival system, which they're not calling a pod, even though it kind of feels like a pod, whatever. Who's going to be our three rivals that we said? Now, Trav, I know you have responded on Twitter. Who did you say you thought would be the three rivals OU would
I'm
play
all about
every
getting the
year?
band back together of Texas. Sorry. I'm all about
Mhm.
getting the band back together of Texas A&M, and Missouri because I think it's important to remind Texas A&M and Missouri that you can run from OU, but you cannot hide. You may run to the SEC and think you're safe, but sorry, you can't. So, um, plus, I mean, Missouri it's basically the equivalent of, I don't know, I don't want to be mean and say Vanderbilt because Missouri has won the SEC East since they've been, and they've been in the SEC championship game since they've been in the conference.
Yeah.
That's more than Texas A&M can say. So, um, I like the idea, but regionally, it just doesn't make sense. I don't know where Missouri ends up if they're not with us. I mean,
Yeah.
I know Tattoo was going to bring up Maggie. Um, that's why I made sure to give them their credit because I knew Maggie might catch wind of this. But anyways, like I said, Missouri has won their division, like A&M has not, despite having
Facts.
Jimbo. Um, but anyways, I think Texas and Texas A&M are obvious choices. I think the swing is whether we do Arkansas or whether we do Missouri.
I'd love
Arkansas
to
would
do.
be fun. It'd be
Oh,
a
I'd
lot of
love to
fun,
do that.
especially for a Tulsa guy like myself that actually lived in Fayetteville in my youth. Sister went to Arkansas. That'd be a lot of fun to play them often. So it's going to be that swing. Texas and A&M seem like locks, and then it's either Missouri or it's Arkansas.
Yeah, and I think what I was thinking earlier is I could see them doing OU, Texas, Missouri, and Arkansas. For us, and obviously, again, I know they're saying it's not a pod, still feels like one. But then, the question is, would LSU then be with maybe A&M, LSU, Bama, Auburn. I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting to see who everybody's rivals would be that they play every year for sure. I
Well,
know
but I
there.
believe the three rivals. I think the difference in the pod is everybody's rivals are different.
Yeah,
So whereas OU's rivals could be A&M, Texas, and Arkansas, OU's rivals could be A&M, Texas, and Arkansas. A&M's rivals could, I don't know.
be
There's
completely
there
different.
there's a way they try and move it around. They try to explain it at
Yeah,
the SEC meetings, but
like
I don't
A&M
know.
would probably play
I
Texas
just
and LSU.
I just don't believe that Texas and Texas A&M don't play each other annually in the SEC.
There, there's no way they're going to. They're going to because it's been forever. It's the two flagship schools. Everybody wants it. Like I said, I personally
Too
would
much
love.
money. Too much money to not do it.
No, exactly. I personally would love to have Arkansas instead of Missouri. Nothing against Missouri, but we've never. I mean, we're next to Arkansas too. Technically, we're closer to Arkansas, the University of Arkansas, than we are Columbia, Missouri. So, like, I I'd rather see that. And after living in Arkansas, and obviously, again, Trav, you can attest to this, and Drew, if you're still watching, you're in the comments, you can attest to this. I've heard so much stuff from Arkansas fans over the years. I just love to give it to them in Donald Reynolds Stadium. I just would love to just go down
They've
to
been
Fayetteville.
they've been
Walk.
really bad for a really long time.
Yes.
Really bad for a really long time. Worse than is representative of their program, I feel. Like the
Yeah.
Chad Morris years were inexcusable.
My word.
Absolute Colorado State and all these teams, like it was inexcusable. I mean, we're talking about the Felix Jones, the Darren McFadden days and all that kind of stuff. Like, heck, even Ryan Mallett made it to the NFL. So, hell yeah, we'll smoke a whole hog. Sounds good. I'm all about it.
I'll be down there. I'll be
Yeah,
down
yeah,
there
yeah.
if that happens. I'm telling you.
But it'll be
But
interesting how Arkansas does now that NIL's running rampant because boy, oh boy, do they have some rich alumni, and that is a rich area.
my
I mean,
word, it is.
you're talking about the likes of Jerry Jones. You're talking about Walmart money. Allegedly, the Waltons aren't involved in the donations anymore. Who knows if that were to be ramped back up given the opportunity. JB Hunt, the Hunt family is very big there. Tyson's obviously there, some big money people. And Northwest Arkansas has a lot of money, and there's no any other place to spend it. That's
Nope.
the thing.
No, but you're not going to Mountain Home and
That's the
spend.
pro team.
Yeah.
The only college there with a team that's worth
Yep.
anything of note.
Yep.
Sorry, Arkansas Pine Bluff, Arkansas State. You guys, sorry. It's all no love lost. I'm sure we got a lot of Arkansas State fans in the house.
Yeah. And it's interesting. If you ever go to Northwest Arkansas, I will say this. It's weird. I always felt like Springdale gets the shaft. If anybody knows the Northwest Arkansas area,
Yeah.
Bentonville's super nice. Rogers is super nice. Fayetteville's a college town. Then you got the side of Springdale called Harbor that's really nice, right? And then you have Springdale that I feel
Springdale's
like
nice.
again has Tyson and JB Hunt. They're both in Springdale, but for whatever reason,
Arvest is a Walton company. That's part of Walmart.
right? For whatever reason, Springdale, the main portion of
Which
Springdale
I think
is
was your point that Arvest does
yeah,
give money. So that's probably your
it,
point.
it,
So
it's run down. I don't understand it. It's really weird. That's always that's a personal topic for me, but it's always been interesting that's happened. Siloam Springs is
Siloam Springs is a bummer because when you drive over from Tulsa, when
yeah.
we were younger and Tulsa and Oklahoma still had 3-2 beer, you drive over into West Siloam and Siloam Springs to get beer as you were heading over to Fayetteville, and they always price gouged right near the border because they knew they had the strong beer.
Mm-hmm.
So a little 22-year-old Travis would drive over there and pay outrageous prices for beers in Siloam Springs. So I'm not a fan of Siloam Springs. I have some my wallet starts crying every time it sees Siloam Springs typed out. So
Now here's the wildest rival that I heard, and this was somebody using their head to try to think rather than actually who our rivals would be. They said
trying to
Bama,
get creative. Bama.
yeah, Bama, Georgia, and Florida.
Jesus.
That's what I said. I was
What are
like,
they? What? That's suicide.
I know. That's what I said. I said, first of all, that's nuts. Second of all,
I'm not scared to play anybody, but
no. I mean, it's as
there's
fun as
also
that would
just
be. It just
it's
it
also
just
just dumb.
doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you? Why would you do that when we already have kind of built-in rivals in Texas, for sure, probably Missouri, honestly, and then it's probably more going to be a toss-up, I think, between A&M and Arkansas.
I mean, I think instead of the Florida Gators, we should do Alabama, Georgia, and the Buffalo Bills at that rate. If we're doing that, I mean, why not, right?
That's hey,
Maybe Tampa Bay can fit us into their schedule.
maybe, maybe,
Jeez, we're trying
maybe
to make
we can
life
get the
real
Cleveland,
difficult.
maybe we can get the Cleveland Browns on there. You know the chatter that's been going on between them and Sooner fans this off
Right?
season. So we love it. Hey, let's go to our Q&A portion, guys. Go ahead, throw some questions in the chat. I know we already got some in here. We'll finish out the show with our typical question and answer portion. Here's one from a non-OU guy. Do we really think A&M can talk themselves out of that game? Got to be a big dog to make calls like that.
So we've seen multiple scenarios where A&M thought they were big dogs, like when they tried to block the Texas and Oklahoma move, or the Oklahoma and Texas move. I'm sorry, I put Texas first there, but they don't carry that big a stick. Unfortunately, I know Jimbo's the head of the coaches committee and all that, but the problem is they don't run that league, man. They like to think they do, but they tried to leak it. They tried to leak the SEC move. They tried to block it. It didn't matter. They got steamrolled. The same exact thing would happen if they tried to block playing Texas. They would get steamrolled, and one of the people that would steamroll them is the governor, because that would be gold for that state if those two teams got to play every year.
Man,
significant financial implications.
Lots of moolah. Here's one from Brian from earlier.
I think he means commits.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How many comments do you think?
Well, I'm not going to read back through these comments. I'm sure there's a lot of them, but I'm bullish, man. On KREF, we put the over/under on 2.5. I took the over. I think it's important to understand that there are a lot of guys that will get an offer and will just snap commit. I mean, you look at a guy like Caden McIntyre. We offered him as an athlete. He kind of translates to either tight end or linebacker, a couple different spots, but we're offering him as a pure athlete, and we stand out dramatically on his offer list. I think it's Iowa, Minnesota, and Nebraska might be his 3 other offers right now, or his 3 bigger offers right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at stuff like that, and people are just like, he's going to snap call, be like, this offer ain't getting taken away, because Brent Venables isn't the type to take away an offer. If he gives it to you and you commit, it's a committable offer. So, I think when you factor in some of those type of commitments, it's not going to be like, what commitments are going to get this weekend? Only from 4 and 5 star guys. Well, then, maybe 2, maybe 1. But when you start factoring in guys like a Robert Spears Jennings, I will remind everybody of this over and over and over. He was ranked 1,200th, 1,300th in the country.
Man.
And then he just shows out, and we offer him, and everybody was crying and just, I can't believe we're offering a 3-star. This is why we're no good, blah, blah, blah. Well, then he shows out. The coaches liked what they saw in him. I mean, when you see him in person, for those of you that got to watch him in person like I did, he's head and shoulders above everybody else on the field every time he plays. He goes to the All-American game. He wins the speed contest. He doesn't allow a catch at the All-American game. And he ends up being the 3rd overall ranked recruit in the Oklahoma class. So with that kind of stuff, you have to remember that now is like these guys that might commit early and might be 3 stars, you have no clue. Jackson Arnold's probably going to be a 5-star by the end of the cycle. And wow, Trap House and I said that like the exact same time. That was wild.
That was wild.
You've never seen Trap House and I in the same room. I'm just saying, I might be Trap House too. So, anyway, so that's the thing. It's trust the evaluations of this staff, especially because this staff has seen what champions look like, because this, especially defensive staff, has coached in 13 national titles compared to 0 on the last staff. And I understand a lot of the last staff was really young, new in coaching career and all that. You don't have the veteran presence of a Todd Bates, of a Ted Roof, that kind of stuff. Like you don't have some of that, but I mean, and obviously Brent Venables being the veteran that he is, but these guys and their evaluations are solid, because they know what it looks like. So if you see a 3-star commit or a couple 3-stars commit this weekend, just look at them and say, man, I can't wait to see where they're at the end of the cycle, or I can't wait to see them in Crimson Cream, because who knows what they'll look like at that point.
Right. Look at a couple more questions here before we call it quits. Where does OU stand with Micah Tease right now? Haven't heard anything about him lately from Michael Humphreys.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be important to him that guys like Gentry and RSJ and JJ Hester, obviously from Booker T, for those of you that forget, JJ Hester, the transfer wide receiver that we just picked up, he's from Booker T. That was a big deal to a lot of those guys. Booker T turns out a lot of talent. Their whole secondary last year went D1, and including Gentry Williams, J.D. Drew, those kind of guys. Micah was obviously back there. So, and Micah will go D1. So I guess not all of them went D1, but by the time this cycle's over, that whole secondary that started last year will be D1. Them offering him as a wide receiver is important, I think. That shows they're willing to work with him a bit to get him in Norman. I think the family ties to it. Obviously, his brother Miles played at OU. He is in Booker T. He is on the staff at Booker T, so he is around him extremely often. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll talk to Gentry a little bit about it and see what his thoughts are on it. But I'll have more next week for you guys on that.
Couple more here. How much weight do you think Jaden Rowe will put on?
I think he gets to probably about 230. But the thing is, like, he just burns fat so much. Like, he's a track guy. For those of you that don't know, he won the state championship in 100 and 200. The dude's, and at his size to do that is simply, it's crazy. And the dude is yoked too. So any weight that Jaden puts on is going to be 100% muscle. They're not going to bulk him up, just to bulk him up for no reason. It'll be muscle. I don't know. His frame's big. I could see him getting to like 230, but I don't think it'd be much more than that, because he just doesn't put on a ton of weight. He's a track star.
He's a runner. He's a track star. Let's see here. One more question, and then we will head out of here. Now I saw one that I wanted to get to.
And I wouldn't say we're struggling with in-state recruiting by any means. I think we're laying the ties. I think these kind of things take a little time to build those relationships with the coaching staffs. Obviously, you're seeing Brent and Todd and all these guys go after Florida pretty heavy, because that's where they have ties. That's where they have. You hear the term pipeline all the time. Well, it's not that easy to just build a pipeline overnight, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing with this in-state stuff. We're gonna do our best with it, but Jacoby Johnson is gonna be a Sooner. Todd Bates the same age as Lincoln? That's shocking to me.
That's nuts, if that's true.
That's shocking to me.
Last question.
Wow, that blew my mind. I don't know if I can go on. No, I'm kidding. That blows my mind. God, Lincoln has some work to do. Todd Bates been about it. Anyways, get some PT this year. He'll get some. He's not going. I don't think he's going to start. He can fight for a spot in the 2 deep, but I think it's important to understand that not all true freshmen. It's not good if a bunch of true freshmen are playing.
Bingo.
So you will have some of your outstanding freshmen. Obviously, Jaron Kanak has been and Javante Barnes, obviously, on the offensive side, have been kind of heading up most of the conversation in that. But, I mean, we shouldn't have had Caleb playing last year. He was not ready. Like, there's a reason that we brought in Jalen Hurts when Spencer was the first overall quarterback in the 2019 class. Like, you don't necessarily want true freshmen playing. It is what it is. You want that talent to develop. You don't see a lot. How many true freshmen were playing on Georgia's championship defense? Not a
Right.
lot. I mean, not a lot getting playing time.
Yeah.
And they were the best defense in the country. So I'm not saying that we're going to be the best defense in the country. Not saying that at all. But I do think we need to temper expectation. Temper expectations on freshmen. But part of it is in this recruiting era, we get to know the freshmen so much more, and especially this class, we got to know them so much more because they came on Spaces, they came on podcasts, they came on radio, and so we just assume boom, now you're at OU, we love you, so play. It doesn't always go like that. So these guys are going to be playing big boy football. So let's let them get to be big boys first. You know what
Absolutely. I mean? Couldn't agree more. Guys, I loved engaging with you tonight. It was fun. We're looking forward to continuing to do this. Obviously, as guests come in, we'll continue to have guests on like we have. But it's always fun to get back to just us two, kind of classic like it has been, and it'll be that way sometimes during the year. And obviously, we'll have some guests on during the football season too. But also want to remind everybody, you can see down below on the ticker. OU softball does play tomorrow. Oklahoma plays the University of Northwestern at 1:30. They will be shown on ESPN. So it's the first game of the Women's College World Series for them in Oklahoma City. If you're there, obviously, go make it. Go watch the game if you can get tickets. If you can't, like me, because you live in another state, watch it. Make sure you're paying attention. Obviously, the girls are probably going to do some big things this year. So, Trav, you got anything, brother?
No. It was a great show, and I'm excited about the Women's College World Series. I'm excited about the Oklahoma Baseball Regional. The Diamond Sports are doing wonderfully. So I'm excited about that. So anybody listening, please, please, please stop responding to the trolls like the Northwestern Barstool account. I was like, oh, you ain't played nobody. We're going to show you, stop. Stop giving these people engagement. Stop giving them the pleasure. Just block them, mute them, whatever you got to do. But stop giving these people what they want. I mean, it's bad, and there's going to be plenty of it because you've got, again, that we've given them the playbook. We showed our hand.
Yeah.
That we will just play into whatever trolls that pop up. So we need to do better as a fan base. Not to tell people how to be fans, but you end up looking a little silly if you continue to engage the trolls. Don't feed the trolls. Let them live under the bridge. But other than that, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the World Series. Cross your fingers that we land a bunch of big time guys at Champ U, because it is quite the undertaking. I mean, having seen behind a little bit of being part of the recruiting mechanism during Champ U last year, the stuff that goes into that, and we didn't have near as many OVs as we have this year, with a new staff, new recruiting director, all that. It is going to be interesting. So, anyways, stay tuned next week. I can't wait to come back and chat with you guys.
Absolutely. Hopefully,
and I'm not sure if anybody's in Tulsa in the chat, but we're going to be at Ash Cigar Bar on Friday from 3 to 6. If you're in town, come by, have a cigar, hang out a little bit. So
hopefully we're crowning another back-to-back national champion next week when we're on the show in softball, and hopefully we're talking about some recruits that we got But we appreciate y'all as always. Trav, love you, man.
Love you too, man.
Boomer.
Appreciate y'all.